Let's open up with a prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered.
What you do? You're growing your hair. I'm growing my hair.
Do you wear glasses or something?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Why did you say that?
It look like you do. Cause yes, it does look like you do. Cause your eyes look weird. It looks like a bean just
Face the east towards Yashra'al.
Where's Kylie? Upstairs.
All right. Brother West, can you open us up with a prayer, please?
All Father, y'all, covenant all in him of Abraham, Yashra'al, and Yaakov. Thank you, Father, y'all, for bringing us into your final day of unleavened bread, Shabbat, hot matzah, I believe. And thank you, Father, y'all, for seeing us through this holy day, Father, y'all, and seeing us through your season of holy days and bringing us into your new year as well, Father, y'all. And thank you for your mercies, Father, y'all. We ask, Father, y'all, as we bring this feast to a close, Father, y'all, we ask that you continue guiding us and know that our hearts are set upon you, Father, y'all, and that we are seeking to do your will, Father, y'all, in everything that we do. So we ask, Father, y'all, for your continued guidance and protection, Father, y'all. And we also ask for the understanding and the knowledge and that only you can give, Father, y'all, so that we could use that understanding and knowledge, not for ourselves, but so that we can apply it to our own lives, so that we can bear fruit for you and others, Father, y'all. So in Yashra'al, HaMashiach's holy mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Is my hat on backwards?
All right. Shabbat Shalom. My name is Yashra'al. My brother Wesley Yashra'al.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And we say Shabbat Shalom not because it's the Sabbath day, because it is the Sabbathon of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, like Brother West was saying earlier in prayer, Hag Matzah, which is day 7 of Unleavened Bread. The first day of Unleavened Bread and the 7th day of Unleavened Bread are Sabbathons, which means they are holy convocations where we have to gather and meet and read out of this word. Feast days, and we're also supposed to rest. It's no servile work on those days. So that's why we say Shabbat Shalom, even though it's not a Sabbath, because it's not a Sabbath, but it is a rest day, a commanded rest day. So the title of today's short class that we're going to have before we get into the feast is Faith Unleavened. Faith Unleavened. And your faith is going to be tied into your works. faith without works is dead, and works isn't just necessarily, I work in the church, I do this or I do that, or, I did, kept the commandments. Your works is your behavior, how you live your life, how obedient you are to the Father. All of that is going to affect your faith. If you know you're not doing right and you're not taking things seriously, your faith is going to be real small. Now, you can lie to yourself and say, oh, everything is okay. That's not faith. That's just lying to yourself. But when it all comes down to it, you're going to do everything carnal in your power to get something done because you don't have the faith in the Father that he's going to bless you and allow things to get done. So we're just going to look a couple, very brief class. We're going to go over the law of Pesach and Matzah. And then we're going to look at some occasions where they did keep unleavened bread after Yahshua. And we're going to look at some of Yahshua's parables regarding faith and leaven. So we're going to first open up in Numbers Bamidbar, chapter 28. Numbers, chapter 28. Numbers is the fourth book in the Old Testament. All right. And again, we are in day 7. And, a lot of people are doing things different than the way we do it. They look like, how are y'all doing unleavened bread? Well, we're using the Enoch calendar. We're using the sun, moon, and the stars according to the ancient scripts, the ancient Sefer writings that tell us how to calculate a new year. New year is calculated by the day after the equinox, where you have equal day and equal night. Then the next day, the day starts to grow longer. That's why it's called spring. And we started that period on March 12th, right? Was it March 12th? I believe it was March 12th was the night of March 12th was our day 1 of Abib. And that is the same week in which they did the daylight saving switch. So, why are they doing that? They're saying New Year don't start or spring doesn't start until the equinox, which is like the 20th, which is like a week later. But yet they're springing the time forward and giving you a longer day. So they're doing that based on something. So they know something. Well, we know what they're doing. So we start that calendar. What you have the majority of people doing, the majority of people are doing what the Jewish people do. They call themselves Hebrews, but they follow the Jews, the Jewish people. And the Jewish people use a lunar calendar, the same thing the pagans were doing in the time of Yahshua. They followed a lunar calendar. Now we have classes on that, on the lunar calendar, to show you that it is, in fact, pagan. Even in his name, lunar comes from the pagan god Luna. So to break that down, and we do it all the time, very simply, to just debunk a lunar calendar, is you ask how many days are in a year. With a lunar calendar with 12 moons, you get 354 days. Period. Nobody can dispute that. Nobody will dispute that. If you do 13 moons, you get 380 something, 384, nearly 384 days. Both of those is either too short or too long. So how could your new moon, start a month? So once you establish that, you say, well, simple math show you that that's not possible. But why would they use that? Well, they were using that because if you go into Acts, you see that they were worshiping Diana, the moon god. They were making cakes unto the moon. So, a lot of stuff was twisted and turned, and we do a lot of stuff out of tradition. And this is why Yahshua himself kept a different Passover than the Jewish people were keeping. He was following a different calendar. That's why he made a statement like, are there not 12 hours in the day? He's letting you know there's 12 hours in the day, 12 hours in the night. That's the equinox. That's the last day of the year. He's talking in parable. He's letting people know different things. That's one level of understanding that he was talking about. But we're going to open up in Numbers, Bamidbar, chapter 28. And we're just going to read verses 16 through 25.
Numbers Bamidbar, chapter 28 and verse 16. And in the 14th day of the first month in the is the Pesach of Yahweh. And in the 15th day of this month is the feast. 7 days shall unleavened bread be eaten. In the first day shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. But you shall offer a sacrifice made by fire for a burnt offering unto Yahweh, 2 young bullocks and 1 ram, and 7 lambs of the first year. They shall be unto you without blemish.
All right, so these are the laws. It's telling you in the 14th day of the first month is Pesach. The 15th day of the month is the feast of unleavened bread. 7 days you shall have unleavened bread, and it shall be eaten. Yes. Get with your sister to help you. Okay? Numbers. It's the 4th book. Help them. You're in the 4th book. All right, so what we just had is we had the first day of unleavened bread. We had that last Tuesday night. That was the first day of unleavened bread. So the 7th day will be Monday night. Now, when you get to Sukkah, Tabernacles, if it starts on a Tuesday, it's going to finish on a Tuesday night because it's an 8-day feast. But this is a 7-day feast. This is a 7 is a number of completion.
Do we know if there's any significance to the number of the bullocks and the ram and the lambs here in verse 19?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm sure there is. You shall offer sacrifice made by fire for a burnt offering unto Yahweh, 2 young bullocks and 1 ram, and 7 lambs of the first year. So 2 and... So 2 and 1, that's 3, and 7, it's 10. I'm sure there's some kind of significance. I don't understand why though. Go ahead.
Numbers chapter 28 and verse 20. And their meat offering shall be of flour mingled with oil. 3/10 deals shall you offer for a bullock, and 2/10 deals for a ram. A several 10th deal shall you offer for every lamb throughout the 7 lambs. And 1 goat for a sin offering to make an atonement for you. You shall offer these beside the burnt offering in the morning, which is for a continual burnt offering. After this manner you shall offer daily throughout the 7 years the meat of the sacrifice made by fire.
7 days.
Throughout the 7 days the meat of the sacrifice made by fire, of a sweet savor unto Yahweh. It shall be offered beside the continual burnt offering and his drink offering. And on the 7th day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein.
All right. So, and on the 7th day, so you have the first day and you have the 7th day is when you do your you have your holy convocation. So again, if you look at that word holy convocation, holy means kodesh, convocation means mikra. Mikra means to gather, a called out time, to rehearse something. So we're rehearsing coming together at the same time. When Yah says come together. Now, we don't have our head here. You know, our head is in heaven and he's embodied through us. So we have a little disorganization because we don't have a temple with official priest that was taught by another priest that was taught by another priest, by, you know, all under a high priest order, where all this was tracked for years. So we're a little bit all over the place. But at the end of the day, you know, when Yashra'al returns, he's going to say, this is the day. This is when we do it. And all those that were practicing coming together at the called out times, if they're trying to be obedient, they'll just fall right in. So, you know, you see people doing other dates is not to, you know, bring them down or you know, judge them. But we look at the fact that, hey, listen, they're acknowledging these holy days and they're trying to follow it. Now, if you're not following the little bit that you do understand, that's a whole different story. You know, there should be admonition at that point. Look, man, don't play around with these holy days. These is Yah's set apart days. He only asked you for 7 throughout the entire year. He asked you for 7 sets of holy days throughout the whole year, and he asked you for the 7th day. So these, and even with the 7 holy days, all 7 of them aren't Shabbats, aren't Sabbathons that you have to take the day off and do this or do that. So he's not asking for much, but we give so much more to this world. We give so much more to the pagan system of we'll keep a Cinco de Mayo, and none of us Mexican. We'll keep St. Patrick Days. Ain't no saint named Patrick that we read about in this book. You know, we'll keep all these different things, and we'll put our stock into that. It's because that's what the world is telling us we should do. That's what they're advertising on TV. But then when it comes to Yah's holy days, because they're not advertised, we don't see no significance. So imagine how Yah sees his children, the few that are saying, listen, you know, I'm doing the best I can to try to keep these. We all taught, self-taught, taught by somebody that was self-taught, you know, that was this, that, and the other. So, you know, he acknowledges that. And when it's time for us to get on one accord, we'll be able to get on one accord and start doing this properly. But now was the time for us to get together and say, listen, man, we got to figure this out, especially with being this far in the game. When we understand that this 400 years is rapidly coming to an end, these last set of holy days, if this prophecy is fulfilled according to the way that we understand it, this last set of holy days are really representing something. So it behooves us to come together as a nation and try to figure out, you know, why are you keeping it on this day? Why are you keeping it on this day? How are you calculating your calendar? How are you calculating? So that we could try to come to some kind of organization to come together with those that at least have similar understanding. Go ahead.
I think that completes Numbers.
All right. And Shabbat Shalom, Elder Zahar, good to see you. And Shabbat Shalom, Janiah Sims. Shabbat Shalom, Ariel Smith. Good to see y'all, family. I know some other people. Shabbat Shalom, Yafi Yehuda. And Shabbat Shalom, Lucas Cool. Good to see y'all, family. All right, let's go to Matthew chapter 13. Matthew chapter 13.
Matthew chapter 13 and verse 1. The same day went Yashra'al out of the house and sat by the seaside. And great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat. And the whole multitude stood on the shore. And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. Some fell upon stony places, where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But other fell into good ground, and brought forth fruit. Some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold.
All right, so, but others fell into good ground and brought forth fruit. It's not for us to judge a tree and say, well, this tree bared all this fruit, and this tree only bared this fruit, so that tree ain't worth nothing. Nah, it bared fruit though. So some bared 60-fold, some 30-fold, some 100-fold. Y'all determine that of which tree is going to bear what. But at the end of the day, it's bearing fruit, and that's what matters. So we shouldn't get into a place of judging something based upon how much fruit it produces. But it says you will know them by their fruit. So if they're not bearing fruit at all, that's something to pay attention to. If you're not bearing fruit, That's something for you to pay attention to. Now, we understand that the fruit of the Spirit. What's the fruit of the Spirit? What's some of the fruits of the Spirit? Do you remember?
Apple. Watermelon? Apple.
No, I'm talking about the fruit of the Spirit, like we've done in those previous Bible study classes.
Grapes.
No, that's the real fruit.
Carrots?
Love,
Oh.
peace.
Oh. That should be like real fruits. What?
So there's different fruit that we can bear. All right, go ahead and continue.
Matthew chapter 13 and verse 9. Who has ears to hear, let him hear. And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speak you unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever has to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever has not, from him shall be taken away even that he has. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand.
All right, so he speaks in parables because it's given unto you to understand. You with the Spirit that bear fruit is given unto you to understand. But to them it's not given to understand. Go ahead.
And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which says, By hearing you shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing you shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you, that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which you see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which you hear, and have not heard them. Hear you therefore the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom, and understands it not, then comes the wicked one, and catches away that which was sown in his heart. This is he which received seed by the wayside. But he that received the seed into stony places, the same is he that hears the word, and anon with joy receives it. Yet has he not root in himself, but endures for a while. For when tribulation or persecution arises because of the word, by and by he is offended.
All right, so he's tripped up. So, you have different scenarios. The environment of the seed can affect the fruit of the seed. So we want to make sure that we provide a good environment for the different seeds that are being planted. One man plants a seed, another man waters, but Yah adds the increase. So when you planting that seed, you giving that information to somebody. You telling them about this word, you telling them about Yah. You want to make sure you do the best job you can to provide a good environment, because that's going to affect the growth of that seed. Now, you don't determine the increase, but you want to pay attention to that. Go ahead.
But he that receives seed into the good ground is he that hears the word and understands it, which also bears fruit and brings forth some 100-fold, some 60, some 30.
All right, so this is how you know if you a good seed. If you a good seed that went into good ground, you are going to bear fruit. And evidence of you bearing fruit is that you're going to hear the word and you're going to understand it. Because the understanding is what's going to allow you to bear fruit. Go ahead, babe.
She used to bear fruit.
Go ahead.
Verse 24. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat, and went his way.
All right, so you planted a good seed, you watered it good, but then yet all these bad things keep coming up in your mind. All these bad ways keep preventing you from doing things. And you just say, like, well, where is this coming from? You know, I'm really trying. I'm getting in this word. I'm trying to change my walk. I'm trying to do all these things, but all these tendencies keep coming up in me. How did they get there? This is what the system did. This is what the adversary did to us. They planted these tares in our lives, exposed us to this wickedness to the point where, you know, we have to constantly root up all these bad things that we didn't necessarily put there. Go ahead.
So that means when you're talking about the seed, when you plant a seed, does that mean like when the bad stuff comes up, does that mean like the seed won't grow?
It could be choked by it. Yeah, that's definitely. It doesn't mean that the seed can't grow. It just makes it difficult if there's tares growing up around it. And when you have something planted, you plant like those apple seeds that Yazzy's planted. The apple seeds. You plant the apple seeds, but if you have reeds and stuff growing up around it, it's robbing from the nutrients that's going to go to that tree, and it could choke it out, and it could cause it not to grow or cause it to not grow as big. So spiritually, what he's saying is, you know, the seed, the Father planted us here on this earth. He's likened us to a seed, and he planted good seeds here, but then yet a lot of people are turning into bad people because the enemy, the adversary, the devil, came and planted bad seeds around it, bad tares around the good seeds to the point that they look the same. A wheat and a tare looks exactly the same when they're growing up. See, this is farming. This is something that we wouldn't understand living in Atlanta unless you are into farming. The wheat grows and the tare grows. It looks almost exactly the same, but you won't know the difference until time of harvest. Because when it's time to harvest it and it's grown, the wheat has the weed on it that makes it lean over because it's bearing fruit. The tare sticks straight up in the air because it has no fruit on it to make it bend. So it's puffed up, almost like a person that's got their nose up in the air. They straight up in the air. You will notice them versus somebody that's humble, is humbling themselves to the Most High. All right, go ahead, brother.
But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way.
So while men slept, so while we were in a sleep state in this 400 years, all these tares were planted in us. All this false doctrine, all these bad ideas, all these non-cultural ways, all these things that were, all these paganism, all these things were planted into us. These aren't something that we came here with these things. These things were embarked into us. Go ahead.
But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, did not you sow good seed in your field? From whence then has it tares? He said unto them, An enemy has done this. The servant said unto him, Will you then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while you gather up the tares, you root up also the wheat with them.
All right. So no, we're not going to go out there and just grab all the tares. It's not ready yet, because that's why we don't judge people, because somebody might appear as a tare because they haven't produced any fruit, but it's not the time of harvest. So you have to wait. People would have looked at Saul as a tare because he was taking the believers of Yashra'al and rounding them up. But at the time of harvest, he produced much fruit. We're reading a lot of his fruit.
Question: what you meant about as far as the tares standing up and just this whole process of growth? Could this be related in some way to when the Most High mentions the fullness of the Gentiles come in? Is he like waiting? Is that somehow relevant to us?
Till they bear fruit,
or until just to see which way they grow?
Right, definitely. To part of that, the fullness of them is part of them also manifesting into the remnant that he's going to take with them as well. Okay. So yeah, I definitely see that correlation.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, brother.
Verse 30. Let both grow together until the harvest, and in the time of harvest I will say to the reapers, gather you together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn.
All right, so gather the tares. They're the easiest ones to get because they're sticking straight up in the air. They're not bearing no fruit. They're not humble. They sticking straight up. So you get them first.
Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like to a grain of mustard seed, which a man took and sowed in his field, which indeed is the least of all seeds, but when it is grown, it is the greatest among herbs, and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches thereof.
All right, so why is he talking about a mustard seed? It's small, but then it grows. What did he compare the mustard seed to?
Faith.
Faith. Right. So your faith when you first started is real small because you don't really, you haven't grown. You haven't been watered. You haven't been, you just coming in. But as time grows, you can't look at that little mustard seed and see a mustard tree right away unless you got experience. So our faith can be as small as that mustard seed, but it could grow. But Yahshua is saying, man, if you could have at least faith as size of a mustard seed, you could move mountains. So that shows how much faith we have. And Yahshua says, if the Son of Man comes onto the earth, is he going to find faith? That's how faithless we are. We have faith in ourselves. That's why we got to do everything. We got to make all the decisions, and we don't want to make those decisions based on the commandments because we don't have faith in anything else other than what we physically seen, known, heard, and what we can do with our own hands. But we'll put our faith in an athlete. We'll put our faith in the government. Go ahead, baby.
So what is a mustard tree?
A mustard tree is where they get the mustard from. Mustard seed. It's a small little seed that grows up. When it grows into a big tree. All right.
Another parable spake he unto them, the kingdom of heaven is like unto leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal, till the whole was leavened. All right. These.
So he's saying the kingdom of heaven is like unto leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal, till the whole meal was leavened. So 3 measures of the meal, she put a little bit of leaven, and it leavened the whole thing. So the question is, are these parables teachings like layman's terms for us to understand the kingdom? Definitely. It is, and it would have been in layman terms for them back in their days because they understood these things. But even with them understanding farming because they were a agricultural people, still they wouldn't understand this stuff because they didn't have the spirit. Those that had the spirit would understand. And even these disciples had a hard time understanding these things at times. But those that are interested in this is asking you and he will answer. Seeking you will find. So the disciples would ask, hey, what does this mean? They would ask for the understanding. So it's the same thing with us. If there's things that we want to understand, we ask the Father. Or ask a question. Ask somebody. Get some information. But seek it. Everybody else will just act like they understand it. Oh, yeah, that's deep. But they don't ask no questions. They don't seek nothing. And Shabbat Shalom, Wade, Alfred, good to see you. Go ahead, brother.
All these things spake Yahshua unto the multitude in parables, and without a parable spake he not unto them, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables, I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world. Then Yahshua sent the multitude away, and went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field.
So they asked. They said, hey, explain this to us. But the rest of everybody else just walked away like, okay, cool.
He answered and said unto them, He that sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, the good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity.
All right, so this is a warning. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, his malachim, and they shall gather out of his kingdom, because this is his kingdom, all things that offend. Offend means to cause to stumble. All the things that are causing people to stumble in this world, and those which do iniquity. Iniquity is transgression of the law. Go ahead.
And shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who has ears to hear, let him hear. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto treasure hid in a field, the which when a man has found, he hides, and for joy thereof goes and sells all that he has and buys that field.
All right. So the kingdom of heaven, again, is like a treasure in a field. Once a man knows that that treasure's in the field, he sells everything he has and he goes and buys the field. And this is what we're supposed to do with this word. Once we understand this is where our salvation is, all those other doctrines and all those other ways to get into eternal life, that should be thrown to the side. You sell everything. That doesn't mean nothing. You put everything into that field because you know right there, there is where my salvation lies, right there. So that's the type of faith that we have to have. And that doesn't happen overnight. It starts with your faith small like that mustard seed. And eventually over time, when you keep watering it and you keep providing the right environment, then it can grow into that huge tree. Let's stop right there. Go ahead.
I do have a comment as far as...
Go ahead, Elder. You have something?
Yeah, praise Yah. Again, you remember the T-shirt where the dead nation is standing in the treasure chest?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that was based on that parable. Did you read that parable again, Brother West?
Which one was that?
Which parable you wanted to read?
The one with the man who found the treasure.
Got it. Okay.
Read down.
Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto treasure hid in a field, the which when a man...
Right here. Okay, the treasure hid in the field. Who is Yah's treasure?
Us.
Is that scriptural?
Yes, we are the jewels of his crown. That's the literal definition of peculiar. When he says you are a peculiar thing, the Hebrew definition of that is treasure. So we're a peculiar thing or a treasure to him.
Talking about his people, Israel, right? We're that peculiar treasure.
Amen.
So that's prophetic. So now let's apply that to this parable, because we're talking about the end time, and we are that treasure. Talking about the so-called Negro, we are Yah's treasure.
Amen.
Now it says, keep reading, my brother.
The which when a man has found, he hides.
Okay, the man would be the Son of Man. I mean, the Mashiach in all the parables is the Son of Man. He has found, the treasure. Go ahead.
He hides, and for joy thereof goes and sells all that he has and buys that field.
All right, so he sells all that he had. All he had was his life. He gave up his life so that he could secure, you understand, that field. And the field represents, again, the world. So we hid in the world, he secured us. But we are that hidden treasure. And proof of that is that painting I did, which will be published soon, because we're in that time of redemption. We are the hidden treasure. We are, the so-called Negro is the hidden treasure that was hid in the fields of the world. We are the dry bones on the open ground. The whole world can see us. We don't even know who we are. So again, going over those other parables, it's like the tares. The whole point is, he said, let both grow together till the end. we're at the end. So again, he's going to begin to separate the wheat from the tares, the seed of Cain, or the seed of the serpent from the seed of the woman, or the seed of Israel. This is what the Father, the Heavenly Father, is purposed to do in lieu of parables, sharing the times that we live in. We here in the field. And again, it's been purchased by our Redeemer, and all we have to do is turn to him, because we are that treasure.
Amen.
We have to wake up. Praise Yah.
Hallelujah.
I was coming. Praise Yah for the class. Beautiful message.
Hallelujah. Appreciate it, Elder.
Amen.
All right, so we're gonna go to Acts chapter 12, and we're gonna finish up there. Acts chapter 12 is gonna show, people will say that, you don't got to keep the holy days anymore. We not in Jerusalem, so don't honor these days, or because Yahshua came, we don't keep holy days. But we're gonna see what the disciples were doing. And this is after, this is Acts 12, so this is after the birth, death, and resurrection of HaMashiach. Because there's all kind of funny doctrines out there, part of selling your treasure, when you had we all had that funny doctrine. We all had that at one point. The enemy planted tares when we were in a sleep state, like what the elder said, when we were 400 years, we were asleep, we were dead, we were buried. We were buried treasure. But when you are awake and you realize, wait a minute, we the treasure. Then you selling everything else that they taught was valuable to us. All these different things, when they told us Christmas was important because it's about family, and Easter is the holy, the holy day of the year. And when we're gonna even see him in this same chapter here, they're gonna use Easter, and we're gonna check that out. Get rid of it.
Acts chapter 12 and verse 1. Now about that time, Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the assembly. And he killed Jacob, James, the brother of Johanan, with the sword. And because he saw it pleased the Yahudim, he proceeded forth to take Peter, Kepha, also, and those were the days of unleavened bread.
So these are the days of unleavened bread. So they still keeping unleavened bread at this time, after the birth, death, and resurrection of HaMashiach. But notice here it said it pleased the Yehudim to take Kepha. So it literally pleased his own people to take him, because he was preaching this same thing that we're preaching right now. This Torah and this belief in this word. That's all they were preaching. They weren't preaching, hey, don't keep commandments. Hey, do what you want to do. No, they were preaching this same good news that, look, bro, you can get life after death if you come unto the Father through the Son, this word, the Savior word of Yah. And it pleased the Yehudim. After all what they saw, this man raised from the dead, did all this stuff, and they still persecute him. And also, look who's the king. Herod, an Edomite. You have your enemy, your brother that hates you, is your king. Go ahead.
And when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Pesach to bring him forth to the people.
All right, so you fixed it, but you saw what it says there. It say Pesach for you.
Passover.
Okay, in the King James here, in verse 4, it says, look here, this is the 1611, intending after what?
Easter.
Easter. So they stuck Easter in here. They're showing you how the Gentile took this book and they translated to push their paganism on you. Because they were keeping Easter before Christ was even on the scene. But this has nothing to do with the Yehudim here. But they stuck that in here so that you in your mind can think that the Passover is Easter. They just told you these were the days of unleavened bread. What the heck does Easter have to do with the days of unleavened bread? Absolutely nothing. But let's look at the Greek word, the Strong's for Easter, and see what they're going to say that is. What's the Strong's number? G what?
I believe it's 3957, but it might be different.
No, it's correct.
Oh, okay.
G3957. Pascha is what they call it. So it's basically Pesach. Pascha. Pascha, Pascha of Chaldee origin. Compare H6453, which would be Pesach. The Passover, the meal, the day, the festival, or special sacrifices connected with it. Easter, comma, Passover. Easter don't have nothing to do with that. Easter is Astaroth. But this is what they did. They stuck that in there and try to make you believe it's the same thing. It's not. Easter don't have nothing to do with that. Go ahead.
Kepha therefore was kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing of the assembly unto Elohim for him. And when Herod would have brought him forth, the same night Kepha was sleeping between two soldiers, bound with two chains, and the keepers before the door kept the prison. And behold, the angel of Yahweh came upon him, and a light shined in the prison, and he smote Kepha on the side and raised him up, saying, Arise up quickly, and his chains fell off from his hands.
So here he is on unleavened bread, being imprisoned for doing nothing but speaking this good news, but telling folks to repent. The same thing Yahshua told folks. Repent. Keep these commandments. Keep the spirit of the law. Stop being so legalistic. Do what is the law for? The law is for you to do good, not to just do a checklist and say, well, because I didn't do the checklist, let me just go ahead and pay some money through an animal or whatever, and that makes me righteous. Not repenting. For heavens forbid I would repent. No, just pay a price so that the Pharisees could be rich. No, they put him in jail for unleavened bread. But there was praying and he had faith. And now the angel came and delivered this man from prison. Go ahead.
And the angel said unto him, Gird yourself and bind on your sandals. And so he did. And he said unto them, Cast your garment about you and follow me.
That takes faith. You in prison. You got some people in prison. If an angel came and freed you in prison, you going to worry about, well, if the guards see me out here, they going to kill me. They going to shoot me. Because if they see you running away from prison, they going to kill you. They're not going to catch you and put you back in prison. They going to kill you. You a threat. But he had faith to do what the Father told him to do. The Father is releasing him through this angel in prison during unleavened bread. During the week where all the sons of Elohim have to appear before Yah. Go ahead.
And he went out and followed him, and wist not that it was true which was done by the angel, but thought he saw a vision. When they were past the first and the second ward, they came unto the iron gate that leads unto the city, which opened to them of his own accord. And they went out and passed on through one street, and forthwith the angel departed from him.
So the angel did what it needed to do, got him free, and bounced. But he had to follow the Spirit. It said, Behold, I sent an angel before you to keep you in the way. Beware of him, for my name is in him, and he will not pardon your iniquity. Your iniquity is not following the word of the Most High. And anything that comes from the Most High, the angels are the messengers. If he says, get up, go this way, you follow the Spirit. Go ahead.
And when Kepha was come to himself, he said, Now I know for a surety, that Yahweh has sent his angel and has delivered me out of the hand of Herod, and from all the expectation of the people of the Yahudim.
All right, so stop right there. So this is during unleavened bread. These holy days are very important to the Father. He's doing miracles on these days. It could have been any other day of the week. It could have been any other day that he did this. This is 7 days out of the year. Out of 364 days, this is 7 days. But he decided to do this miracle during this period of time. So let us have that same faith. These disciples, they're no different than us. These apostles, they Hebrews just like us, going through the same thing. Moving against the grain, trying to do what the Father tells them to do. Keeping the faith. They had the same fear. Remember, Kepha, the same dude who denied Yahshua. So, again, you could have said, hey, from that point, let's harvest him. He's not bearing fruit. He denied Yahshua. Yeshua said point blank, you deny me before men, I'm going to deny you before the Father. But it wasn't time of harvest yet. So he grew and he produced fruit. That's why it says, should we grab all those tares and fruit? Nah, the wheat and tare. No, let them grow. And at the time of harvest, then we'll harvest the tares first. Well, like the elder said, that time of harvest is coming. These end times is coming. So we only have so much time to bear fruit. And for us to bear fruit, we got to have the Spirit. And to have the Spirit, we got to follow the instruction. And you see, the instructions are to keep his commandments, to keep his days, to follow his instruction. And we have a certain period of time. And when that period of time comes up, that's the time of harvest. You didn't bear no fruit. The tare's coming up first. So let's keep that in mind, because we don't know. It could come tomorrow or it could come 10 years from now. But if we're giving prophetic message in this word a specific amount of years, and that time is coming up, then we want to treat it like we believe what's in this book. So that's all we're going to do today. Any last questions or comments before we close? Elder, you have anything?
No, praise God, brother. Beautiful class. Hallelujah.
All right, hallelujah. And shalom, brother Melvin Shelley. Good to see you, family. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and feast. Again, praise y'all. You know, we were able to come together. We got a building. We are at 183rd Street, 183rd Moreland Avenue. We just got the power on, you know, so hallelujah. We're trying to get everything together. We can definitely still use your support. If you're on Facebook, we got a donate button on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, we got a donate button on YouTube. That money will go not into the pockets of individuals. It's going to go into the nation, because that's what we're doing. We're nation building. And this costs money for us to be able to do that. So if the Father put it in your heart to do so after the Shabbat, do so, please, because we can definitely use the help. So that's all we're going to do today. Let's go ahead and close in a prayer. All brothers remove their head coverings. All sisters pray with their heads covered. And we face the east towards Jerusalem. All right. Put your head covering on, Yazzie.
Because I got stuff in my hand.
Put it down. All right. We face the east towards Jerusalem. Our Father, Yahweh, Elohim, the Allah of Abraham, Yashak, and Yaakov. Covenant Father, Elohim of Yashra'al, we thank you, Yahweh, once again for bringing us into your 7th day of your matzah, of your unleavened bread. And we appreciate this week that you have given us. We appreciate the fact that you allowed us to keep this feast, Yah. And we understand through your prophecies that this may be the last feast that we keep in captivity, Yah. We ask that you provide us, Yahweh, with this unleavened bread, Yah. Not the bread that we made with our hands, but the unleavened bread of your word, of your Son, that you allow us to ingest that, not only during these 7 days, but to keep that with us as we try to navigate our way back home, Yah. Yah, we ask humbly, Yah, being that your spirit is here, Yah, during these times that you set apart. We ask that if we made any error in calculation, that you take that not to disobedience, but you take it to ignorance, Yah. For we are doing the best we can to try to keep your honor and honor be obedient to you and your word, Yah. So, Yah, we ask that not only you have mercy on us and those that may have made error, we also ask that you give us the understanding so that we can willfully come together to do those things, Yah. And Yah, right now we're in disarray. We're like sheep with no shepherd, Yah. We ask that you provide a shepherd for us, Yahweh. We ask that you provide that spirit to allow us to come back together and gather. For we understand separate we are very weak, but together we are very strong, Yah. So we ask that this season, Yah, as you call your children back home, that you allow us the spirit, Yahweh, to come together on one accord, Yah, and to put doctrine and differences aside, Yahweh, and see the bigger picture that we are the body and none of us are the head, Yah. And we humbly ask this of you, Yah, to once again empower your servants that choose to put forth their bodies and their effort and their spirit to do so, that you empower them according to your prophecy, Yah. We ask none of these things against your will. We ask all these things according to your will. And we ask these things through your holy, humble, anointed Son, Yahshua HaMashiach, in which all praise, majesty, might, and dominion resides here and forevermore through you, Yahshua. In the name of Yahshua HaMashiach, we thank and pray. Amen.
Amen.
Block the candles, Daddy.
No.
We're still doing it?